Mai te whakatona, mai riki au raki, tēnei te hapori, api ai te karatai, whakatona, ai mai te tariki, au mai te taimai. Thank you.
Kia ora, Joel. Welcome online. Welcome, Shane. Jeff. Johannes. Stranger. Who would like to start us off? We're here to talk about our Waingawa water storage.
I will lead off. Thank you, Your Worship. I assume those around the table know Johannes Ferreira, our former infrastructure manager, who's contracted back to lead this project for us on behalf of council. I have published a paper that is, I apologise, 299 pages long, with a large number of technical reports. The paper covers off costs only and doesn't include any revenue. So what I've given you is the absolute worst case scenario for this project should there be no revenue ever achieved during the life of the asset. And I've done that so that council can understand the consequences of the decision and the importance of the decision, but also we have no customers on board at this stage that are drawing large quantities of water. We do have a single customer on the Waingawa process water, but at this stage we don't have demands that we can put our hand on our heart on and say there is sufficient demand at a particular price for water. So mostly this is about cost. So the case you have in front of you does only consider cost. It does not consider the upside of additional capital contributions that may come in from other parties. It does not consider revenue that we may generate over the life of the asset. It does not consider whether or not the loan remains a loan for the life of the asset, or whether or not some of that could be offset elsewhere. What I have also done as part of the project is take a couple of steps backward and provide you with the original Vitruvius business case, and particularly for the two councillors who probably haven't seen that business case previously. It does cover off the benefits that can be achieved by delivering water storage within this area, and the target market, which would mostly be in the industrial space, but also target market in the agricultural space. And that business case has a positive benefit, so a BCR of 2.121, which means that for every dollar we invest, we would anticipate to get $2.1 back over the life of the asset, and that is discounted over time. What we have seen through the following stages of since we've purchased the land and undertaken the geotechnical and other advisory reports, that BCR, it looks like it will increase because the volume of capacity that we can build has expanded, and the amount that it costs to build that has reduced. So together those two things combine to say that we could anticipate a BCR of greater than the BCR that is in that original business case. In addition, what we've done is look at a target market or a target water storage dam of roughly a million cubic metres of water storage capacity, which is twice the original business case proposal, and again is less than the original business case of 25 million, and that includes land purchase as well as some pumping and remediation, as well as contingency. What we'd like to do really is perhaps talk through the proposed business case, the technical reports, and then also discuss the options of what next. And those options can include whether we as council own that asset, whether we build the asset or transfer it to a new entity, whether we seek additional equity partners, whether they be councils to our north or south or Greater Wellington, whether iwi participate, etc., whether we sell or pre-sell allocation to the water, now or in the future. But I guess really what I wanted to do was provide you with as much information as possible, and also the opportunity to ask questions of us, of Johannes, and if council wish, I would invite our representative from Kanoa to the table, Shane Ratt. So if you have questions with regards Kanoa, we could ask questions of him. But from here, I'm in your hands, happy to take questions, comments and discussion.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm just wondering if Johannes wants to add.
Do you want me to just give an overview of what we've done and how we ended up here?
It's not about me, it's about council, and I'm sure they'd love that.
Johannes, would you like to present to us just what's geotech reports and so forth have already been undertaken on the site and so forth?
Okay, so thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for having me back at this table. It's always a privilege to be here. So since the acquisition of the land, we immediately start with the geotech investigations to confirm whether the land is suitable for the initial concept that we thought of in the feasibility study. What we found in the geotech report is that the land is probably more suitable than we anticipated, not finding any soft spots or any strange underlying conditions. So we've throughout the whole property, it's consistent in material. So we did quite a comprehensive investigation. We established 5 boreholes with piezometers that when we get to design stage that we would be able to get records of the water table. We also dug test pits, and that's all been confirmed then from the experts that's been on site to the lab work that we got back. It all confirmed that this is really confirmed that this is more feasible than we even thought. There's less risk in the type of dam that we're building and the location that we're building it. Further to that, also the natural lay of that property allows for the southeastern end to be quite deeper than would have been possible have it been flat. So there's a natural fall, which is also advantageous to a storage facility on this property. Yeah, and then also during this time, been in a lot of conversation with people that build these type of dams regularly, especially down south in the Marlborough area. Tim Smith was engaged as a subject matter expert that does this, is a dam expert, and he does this on a daily basis. He prepared the concept, and the purpose of that concept was a few things. One, to verify or just test the budget that we set, and that's why we came back with a much sharper estimate. It will also be used in procurement to source the design engineers, the final design engineers for construction, as well as the construction company. In doing those two steps in parallel, we've got the opportunity to have a contractor engaged with contracted rates that we can then use when we design, so that if council chooses, that we can design towards a budget and have the maximum capacity stored. As part of if we think back to the business case, the main the biggest constraint on the success of the project was always the volume water stored. So the more volume water is available, the better the business case becomes, or the better potential the storage has. And that is also because we're doing one use or a 1.2 usage of the volume. We're not anticipating that we would fully replenish this during the summer. So we'll fill it up during the winter and then deplete it during the summer and then fill it up again. So that's in terms of investigation, that's where we are. The if council gives direction on what it chooses to do in terms of volume, then the next step would also be to start preparing for that earthworks resource consent and the procurement of the design and construction. And then just further to Jeff's comment on the options in front of council. In the June report, we noted that council's got the option of either own this entity itself, or own part of it, or own nothing of it. But that's really the option is there for council.
Thanks, Johannes. I'm sure there's 101 questions. I have plenty, but I think we all do. Open up. Who wants to? Steve.
I'm sure this is in these 493 pages of stuff we've got. Must have missed it. We know Jeff's talked about the Higgins site, which was supposed to be a quarry and turned out to be a lake. So the dam you're proposing, would that fill naturally as well from the aquifer, or are we only relying on the river? And what impact does that have on whether we line it or not?
So the recommendation is to not go into the groundwater. So the design would stay above the water table and line it. The reason for that is that once you go into the water, that's a different resource consent. So that's a groundwater take, where the proposal for the storage dam is to take excess water under the waterways consent. The other issue is that during the summer, when we need this water, is when the water tables drop as well. So if we're relying on this to naturally fill from groundwater, then we might not have it available in a really dry summer.
So I've got a question along those lines, because for me, I feel the initial thoughts around how this would work was it was going to be a big hole in the ground.
Yes.
And we were going to take significant advantage of the gravel that was going to be extracted. And if we are, depending on the size footprint we choose to do, there'll be a lot less gravel.
Yep.
And so my question really is, are we seeing a larger cost to completing this project along the lines of what we had to do with our wastewater reservoirs, because we need to dam walls so that we get the depth of capacity?
So just step back to the benefit of the gravel sales. If you think about the concept, the way that it is now, and the estimate, the lower estimate far exceeds what we could have gained from the benefit of selling on gravel. And the benefit of the gravel sale is always dependent on a willingness to pay and a buying market. Even though the initial idea was we'll have a hole, it'll have water in it. To take water from the ground would be far more complicated and less reliable than having a lined dam. Yep.
The gravel sales make no difference to the benefits. The benefits are generated through the sale of water. If we doubled the amount of gravel sale, it still wouldn't reduce materially the capital cost to build the project. There is a very high cost to extract gravel, which means that the margin from selling gravel is actually quite low, and it doesn't make much of a difference to the business case. The story, the gravel is not really the benefit here.
However, so there's two things also to consider. In developing the concept, we looked at the optimum cut to full ratio. So we want to take as much from the cut into the walls, so that we don't have to bring material on site, all those kind of things. The other thing that we need to consider is, even if we do the proposed footprint There's still the same area available. If we wanted to mine the around it, you could consider that as on that same property. Obviously, that would have different implications and considerations, but the gravel is available there on the rest of the property.
Get 2 holes.
Yeah.
So, not sure if you answered or not, the cost, is there a higher cost for building dam walls than just digging a hole in the ground? Because I know the groundwater height or depth will have restricted the depth that we can dig.
So the cut to full, yes, the short answer is yes. It's more expensive than to take cut and fill into dam wall than just cutting a hole. However, with the topography that we have, by having the fall of the land and having a deep end, the volume of water, the potential to store more water on the same footprint is far larger than what we initially forecasted. And even though there's a small benefit to gravel extraction and gravel sales, and the real benefit here is to the economy is in the use of the water. The real benefit is not necessarily in the storing of the water. The one that's using the water will have the greatest benefit.
So just supplementary to that, if we restrict the size of it now, what are the cost implications of if we're building a dam wall in between where we want to extend it? Are we actually causing us a whole lot more cost in the future that we should avoid now by covering the whole footprint right at the start?
They considered that.
By building the largest volume possible, you obviously save on your engineering cost, your double handling, your inlet outlet design, those kind of things. In this, whether we build it now or without doing the calculation, the exact calculations, I would say it will probably be, you would probably lose out at 40% of the cost if you were to build this again, instead of if you go on to cost per volume. Because if you consider also so we say now that you can possibly build, or you could build 1 million cubic meters of storage for 18 million. If you were to target a 25 million budget and we get our contracted rates in, there's a good chance that you'd store 2 million cubic meters of water. We would only know that once we have contracted rates. We have pretty educated estimates at the moment. But that's because a lot of the investigation's already been done. It's part of what we're already doing, and you get economy of scale there.
Yep. Okay, thank you. I have more, but
I might just put in a caveat. So for instance, the 40% pull it out of the air.
Yeah,
I'm happy to get anything confirmed and verified if there's a desire to do so. So I'll try my best to answer, but yeah.
To me, that's quite important.
Yeah,
for us to know that.
I think the summary is the estimate that we have at the moment, 18.3 million, which does include the land purchase. So essentially 15 million worth of construction will give us ballpark 1 million cubic meters. If we were to push that up a little bit more to say 21 odd million, we'd get double the capacity at 2 million cubic meters. So you add, 30% to your cost, 40% to your cost to go up to 21 million, and you double your capacity, which is kind of what you'd expect from a scale project.
And to add to that, if you then look at the economic benefit, that's an exponential increase. So we go from targeting 300 hectares maybe of irrigation or 2 wet industries of use, to then potentially going to 700 hectares, and then that's quite a significant. So it's quite a the knock-on effect is quite significant once you have more water available.
Thank you. I have some questions, but they're more related around to the benefit side. Do you say that this is more around the cost that you want to concentrate on?
Yes, so at this stage, what we've done is the Vitruvius business case, which suggested there is benefits available to us from having water storage.
Yeah.
The challenge is often industries won't commit to a water take or a water take at a particular price
Quite a risk.
until such time as it's built. So there is the chicken and egg scenario of, do you build it first or do you drum up demand in order to support the business case to build it?
Is that being debated here?
Absolutely, that's a question for council, because somebody needs to underwrite the project.
Mhm.
And what we've had is support from Kānoa to loan us the money to underwrite the project. And the benefits of that project, if we retain the asset, will all flow to Carterton District Council. If council considers that the risks are greater than the benefits and you'd like to share that elsewhere, then we need to find some different equity partners before we continue on with the underwrite. But the benefits are really around, this certainly won't be transferred to the water services entity. It'll remain with council. We haven't focused heavily on the revenue side of things. We could decide, for example, that we wanted to redivert our Wairarapa Economic Development team to drive take-up in water storage and water usage in the Waingawa area. Now, that's a decision that council might wish to push or consider. But at this stage, what we have focused on doing is undertaking a feasibility business case. Can it be done? Is it economic? The answer to that was yes. The next step was, okay, so now that we've got it, we need to secure the land, which we've completed. Then the step after that was, is that land suitable for water storage? And if so, how much water storage could we do and what would be the cost of that? So we're adding more and more information as we go through this. What we haven't done is pick up the piece which says, where is the demand, who is the demand from, and what price would that demand be? And also the take of that demand over the year. So industry, for example, would take demand on a regular basis throughout the year, including winter, whereas the agricultural demand is more likely to peak towards the summer and end of summer period. So you end up with a peak in demand in that. We haven't done the demand analysis. We haven't pushed that at this stage, mostly because the work has been focused on, is it economic? Can we acquire the land? And is it feasible?
So there's no effort gone in at this stage to finding out who in Waingawa would be really interested in the concept of this project, and that they're excited about it. And yes, if you built it, we will come. Has anyone been approached at all?
So there are 2 industries in Waingawa that are heavy water users, and they're both the timber processing plants. And one is connected to our Carterton Council's water network, and they use potable water for their processing.
Is that J&L?
It's about 60,000 cubic metres a year, I seem to recall. And the other is Kiwi Lumber, and they have their own bores on site, so they draw their own water, and they don't have much demand from us. We would have to, I would anticipate new demand sources would be required for this water storage, whether that be agricultural, horticultural or industrial.
So in industrial, who else on Waingawa do you believe would be interested in connecting to this source?
At this stage, there isn't a great demand from existing users.
Right.
There is some demand.
Right. And have the 2 that you've identified said that if this is built, we will connect to it?
No, they haven't.
So that to me is a major risk.
J&L specifically said that they would.
Right, it's not. There's already water we've just commissioned Waingawa non-potable water storage. So they've already got access to water if they want it. This is on top of that to supplement that or supplement a business that might come into there and need more than we can provide through that initial project, plus how this might be able to be supply water
So
to.
who's using the water we've got now?
User.
One user.
One user, and they're not a big user.
You're not a significant user.
Right. Have they said any reason as to, I mean, like, if I was a heavy water user and I didn't require potable water and this was offered at a lower price, it would be almost be considered to be a no-brainer.
Correct. So interestingly, council sets the price of potable water in Waingawa, and we set the price of processed water in Waingawa. So should you wish to widen that gap, that's your call.
But you still think
In
then
economic sense.
that an industry would then say, yes, you have our commitment because of the fact that you're going to reduce our costs. But they've not been able to do that.
I think what you find is commitment follows surety, and at the moment there isn't surety, so the commitment's all vague.
Okay, because I'm
It's
thinking.
not surety of supply.
Yeah, because don't we have also water from Carterton coming into Waingawa as well? Any come from Carterton?
That's potable water.
That's potable water.
But I thought you said that came from, we have potable water as well.
Yes,
That's
it's supplied by Masterton
Oh.
to Waingawa.
Right, okay.
And the price of which is set by Carterton District Council.
Right, okay, but we buy it, do we buy it off Masterton?
Yep.
Right, okay, and we add a bit of a margin, I guess. But that'll all go to the new water entity, won't it?
Yeah.
Carterton will.
Yes.
So that's, okay. All I'm thinking here is, having started my own business, you've got to be fairly sure that there's a market for what you want.
Mhm.
And it'd be terrible if we built something and we found that there just wasn't the demand for it. And it may be that the changes that they have to do to connect to non-potable water may put them off. I don't know, but we've got to find that out.
There is a market though, and there's a market outside Waingawa Industrial, but through our arable farmers. There's already farmers out East Taratahi who want the water.
Yep.
It's getting it to them.
Okay, but that's separate. That's agricultural. I've just been concentrating at the stage on industrial, which is why we're putting it in. It's mostly for the industrial side.
I don't think so.
Joint efforts.
Absolutely. It's just one specific.
But as Jeff said, one is more seasonal and one is year round. So you have a
Okay.
difference in that.
Also pick up in here, the one's a hell of a lot cheaper than the other. The water that's being sold to industry is going to be a hell of a lot higher than the water that's sold to agricultural. One's 30 cents per cubic metre and the other is something like $1.50 or whatever, 3 times the price. So if I was an industrial user, I'd be saying, hey, why can't you do me a deal here?
So if I can maybe just comment on that, just to bear in mind that was part of the business case, and it was based on a willingness to pay assumption at the time. If we were to sell this to the farmer, what would be a reasonable price? You would also see that the land use that they chose were really very low value in terms of irrigation, so it wasn't the high value crops used. So this is the business case took a very conservative approach. In terms of the uptake, I know that we don't have demand now. The initial project was always started on the build it and they would come scenario. The business case assumed a 20-year uptake period. So just that's quite a long period to get everybody on board. And then the last thing, in terms of the concept of the dam, we always said we're not going to tie ourselves now to how this water will be used. Council can work on that. Now we know that if we have water, there's options. It can either go industrial or agriculture, or a mixture of both. And I think the big thing or a next piece that can be done to mitigate the risk is we can allocate that water. We can go through the process of getting that allocated without the user having to pay anything for the allocation, so that we can have surety that the water will be used. And then that will influence the final design as well of, do we direct everything to the industrial area, or does some of it go to the agriculture area? The one thing to bear in mind with the volume stored, and why it's so important to get as much volume as possible, is if we were to use only agriculture, you probably you'll probably take all the water with depending on the size, between 300 and 600 hectares. That could be one farmer in the area. So it's not too out there to think that you could secure or make all the allocation within a calendar year. So that, I would say, that is reasonably possible, and that then takes most of the commercial risk away.
When it comes to agriculture, sorry, I'm tying things up here, but when it comes to agricultural, most agricultural users now have direct feed off the various canals from the water race, correct?
They can't irrigate from that.
They've all got their own bores.
Okay, I'm with you. So how do you distribute this water that's stored at Waingawa out to the various agricultural areas? How is it distributed?
Through the water race system.
So you put it into the water race?
Yeah.
And all the various canals are spread by this stage quite far and wide, right?
But they have their own storage on site as well. The farm would have to construct a storage facility.
Right, does it have to be piped to them, or is it just, because it aren't we storing it from a particular canal on the water race, right, that comes through that area, right? So that's fine. You could dump excess water back into that as it flows further down, but only people on that channel will get the benefit of that.
Okay.
Those that are far east and west of that, will they benefit from this at all?
But that's where this is. We need proof of concept, and you get it going in one area, and then another reservoir storage dam could be set up to support another section of the water race. That's why we.
Correct. I think you're right, Your Worship.
How do you target? How do they pay for it? If you're putting it back into the water race, the water race users are already paying for the water. So how are you charging them for that extra water that you're putting back into the water race? That doesn't work.
At the moment, with the ABC charging for water race water now,
Yeah, but you're saying you're going to charge them more for the water out of the reservoir.
Yes.
How do you charge them for that if you're putting it back into the water race?
It's going to be water metered on site. Every farmer will have to have, like they do now. They have a
water out of there already.
Yeah.
You're saying we're going to store water to put back into the water race. They're already paying for water out of the water race. They're not going to want to pay more because we're putting more water in there.
They're not using it for irrigation.
So if I can maybe add, and that's a very, very good point, is what we're talking about is the water in the dam would be allocated. So somebody would buy or agree to an allocation that there would be a charge on. So, and yes, the water race could be used to transfer water from the storage dam to another property, but that would be really be dependent on the property that takes advantage of that allocation. So that might be the property just next to the dam that takes that allocation, or it might be 5 kilometers down the race. But the details of how you would get it to that person and how, or that property like that, that will be dependent on the actual property or properties that shares in the allocation of the additional storage.
And just to add, the water race, those who are the users who use it, it's only for stock. It's not for irrigating their arable
We
crops.
do have users that irrigate out of it, though.
Only instance.
The charging model of it is what I'm questioning.
So that is,
Back into the water race.
so the charging model hasn't been decided, or the price of the water, and that that whole mechanism is yet to be designed. We're only where we are now is considering should we continue, and if we were to continue, how big should this be? And in parallel to that, there's the decision on where does council want to be in this? Do they want to own the burden and the benefit, or just a part of it, or nothing of that? And then as well as how are we going to allocate this, and who's going to pay for this?
I think to that point, Johannes, I think I understand there is a really strong business case. When I read this, I did think about that demand risk that you were talking about, and we've kind of talked that through. Thinking about those three options that we're going to be looking at when we're making that decision, I felt like within the wider landscape of everything else that's going on in terms of potential rates capping, potential amalgamation, there's been figures thrown around like 50 to 70 million. We don't know if we're going to get any support for that. The fact that it's going to push our debt limit pretty close to the self-imposed limit, and the potential forecast on the impact of rates, I feel like it sounds like a really great idea, and I think the region does need economic development and there's potential for that. But when I read this, I thought about, first of all, the timing, but also the potential to, partner with other councils or mana whenua, rather than take it on as just as Carterton owning the asset, but also all of the risk and potential for things to happen in the future, and we could get into a place that feels a little bit stuck.
So the loan repayment, are we looking at targeted rates or general rates? Are we expecting everyone in the residential area to be paid more rates for a storage project that they're going to get potentially no benefit out of?
So the calculation I've done is based on average rate. So at this stage, there's been no decision on who pays. I've calculated based on an average rate across all of Carterton.
So we've been talking about footpaths and parks, and now we're saying we're going to spend potentially 18 million on the water storage.
And no one said they want you.
Residents would rather have parks and footpaths. That's what it comes down to.
This will earn
In this economic climate.
every ratepayer
How?
Yeah, I see that.
with the revenue coming back.
But we don't have.
We haven't got the revenue. That's the whole thing. This is just a guess that's going to get the revenue. If the industry was knocking on our door saying we need this, I'd be all behind it. But no one is saying we actually need this. And so it's the build it and they will come type thing is incredibly risky. And I don't think we'll get much support from ratepayers if they are going to have to subsidise the cost of developing this. And then if we find that it doesn't come through, we haven't done our service to our ratepayers as we've been asked to do.
But Simon, let's put the industrial estate just to the side and think about everything else. The economic benefit to not just our district, the whole of the Wairarapa. For support for our
Finish.
Pay for us.
yeah, but that's just part of it. We haven't even got to that discussion yet about partnership with iwi, both PSGs who have shown a considerable interest in this, which will cut down the impact on our ratepayers to potentially begin with when we're talking about developing unitary authority, and this will be spread across the whole of the Wairarapa. But part of that is we do have customers wanting water. Absolutely. Absolutely. So saying that is wrong. Yes, there's none apart from one in the industrial estate that wants water right now. But and there's enough water supply there to supply a potential another company who wants to go in there already. So it's how we might get this water out to the arable farmers too, if we can, but there are customers there. Saying there's not customers there is not right.
Okay, and then I'd like to know who those customers are.
I think what I'm hearing is that there is a need for more information around the revenue side of things. So we've provided a lot of background information on the business case. We've got general agreement that the business case makes a lot of sense. We've got a lot more comfort now in terms of our cost estimates of the engineering, which previously had a 50% contingency in there because we didn't know. We've now got surety on the land. We've got surety on whether or not we can do this. The next piece that you're looking for is surety around the revenue upside to mitigate the risk to our ratepayers to say that this isn't going to be a burden, this is actually going to be a benefit. And we've done previous work with Waingawa where there was quite a lot of demand and in some cases farmers signed up and contributed capital towards that project. That failed, but that did show that there was demand. And I think what we can do next is just refresh that information and bring that back in terms of the potential for demand around this area, whether that be industrial or agricultural, from local landowners, and particularly where that is directly around the site, so we're not using the waterways to transport it down to other farmers on the other side of the state highway. So I take that as another piece of information that you'd like before considering a significant investment like this.
And potential investment partners, I think it needs to be something that is part of that next piece of information that we get as well. If there is money from neighbouring councils, looking through the document, and I did read all the pages except I didn't quite get all the gravel information. The Wairapa Water Resilience Strategy 2021 was a document signed by the neighbouring councils and iwi. So I'm going, they seem like obvious people to say, hey, remember how you signed that document with us? It's not just our responsibility.
Can I just ask, though, in terms of benefit to other areas, when I looked at the map, I mean, we've been looking at Waingawa, which is in the Carterton area, and we've been looking at the map that showed the potential irrigation area, which is where the current water race boundaries are. How would Masterton and South Wairapa say, hey, this benefits us?
Yeah, so originally the processed water project that we did, the intent behind that was to reduce demand on Kaituna, on potable water from Masterton, and that would allow potable water to be used for higher purposes such as drinking rather than manufacturing. And the intent of that still remains.
Gotcha. Okay. And look, just to get them right here, I'm all for water storage, I really am, but someone has to pay, and that's my only concern.
And understand, if we look at climate change, we know that our summers are getting longer and drier and hotter, and that our weather events are more severe. And water storage is one of the areas where, if we want our economy to continue to grow and land use change, one of the big drivers is capacity and ability to connect into water. Somebody has to build it. The question is that somebody us on our own? Is that us with some friends? And who's going to take it off us? Yeah. But that's why we're here. We've done a whole lot of work, and I'd like to say thank you to Johannes and Shane, who have been supporting us all the way through this process. We are learning more as we go through, and certainly you're getting more and more information, and you're crystallising what it is that you'd like to have in order to help you make this decision. So I'm more than happy to go away and let's do some work on it.
Yeah. So I was going to say, with regards to resource consents, how much of a potential handbrake is that going to be with changes to Greater Wellington Regional Council and the fact that Higgins have had a 2-year consent that's just sat there?
Great question. The reason we chose this parcel of land is we just require an earthworks consent.
Right, we just need to continue to dig a hole. That sounds awesome.
And great work's been done. I'm blown away by the scale of detail, which of course I couldn't get my head fully around. And I kind of really hope that this does proceed, as long as we've got all our, the ducks lined up. Then that would be great. And
I don't want ducks in there because it kind of takes
the duck shooting season.
There's two ways to mitigate the risk here. One is to get customers. Yep. And the other is to talk to our potential lenders and see if they're prepared to maybe capitalise interest until such time as we had a revenue stream that's identified. I don't know if there's anybody in the room who could comment.
It's kind of had a question along those lines, but I'm not sure whether
Do you want to join us?
whether
You're okay
this
with that?
sure, whether this is part of the scope of the money that was provided to us. WEDS, Wellington NZ, how do we have the ability, because we need customers, do we have the ability to use some of this funding and invest, well, put a project to Wellington NZ, who have been quite happy to jump on the bandwagon of this and say it's been their project as well, and actually get them to find us some customers? Or is that on us as a council?
That's a question to Wellington New Zealand. It's not really a question to me.
But utilising some of the funding that you've provided to us is where I'm coming from. Is that with part of the scope?
Part of the pre-establishment, there was
I
a,
think it's pretty broad in there. That these projects, they have a wide range of work plans. So it's not just like building a house with foundations and framing and roofing and that kind of thing. It's not quite as clear as that, and there is investigations and requirements that are outside of whether it be ecological or otherwise that chews up money. So yeah, I think it's broad enough to be able to see that. I did want to say, just with the WED's involvement, WEDs are a economic development, group together to help coordinate and move economic development in the region. They're really a secretariat, would be a fair example, and they use direction from the community, from as best that they can through workshops and the rest of it, to create the plan that they've got in front of them. I think from an economic development perspective, if we think about Wairarapa, we've pretty much had a history of being non-investable. If we want to make it clear, the central government, it's almost feel like it's a non-investable place. And we have to kind of question and ask ourselves why we end up in that position. How do we get there? In this circumstance, we've identified an area that's had ongoing investment actually over quite a long period of time. If you remember some of the talk previously with the rail hub and the rest of it into Waingawa. Waingawa Park in itself is probably the jewel of opportunity out of everything I've seen so far in the Wairarapa. And it's sitting there limping along and trying to I guess grow in its own way. It's got a couple major providers in there of in the food and fibre space, which is a priority, and economically, for the amount of jobs that actually hold there on site, it's significant. Like, it's not just some old industrial site. It's significant for this area and for the Wairarapa. It's the one area that's got growth opportunity as far as it's got available land and space there, but it does have a problem, and there's a few problems there. One is it doesn't have a reliability of water source. So any heavy water users to relocate into that site can't really relocate, or would find it pretty risky to go and relocate into that site anyway. So, developing a surety of water is going to benefit the environment for new players to come into the fray. Also, to the side of it, because it's a transport hub, to the side of it, if the land use shifted to a higher value horticultural kind of environment, and investors came into that, then it seems pretty attractive. It's right next door to where they can process and transport goods and services out of the area. So if you think about it from a wider economic development perspective, yes, you could do your footpaths, yes, you can do the main street, make that look amazing, and you can do all the things that the community is saying, I want you to fix this pothole. But if you were going to actually invest into growth, and that's jobs and industry and packing and facilities and all the rest of it that's going to support your arables or any other sectors, then the park itself is a significant opportunity for you. It's just when and how and to what level do you feel comfortable doing that with, and what partners. And that's what this conversation is with you. The challenge for us, from our perspective and from my perspective personally, is that, I bring a project that the region package up for me to sell to government. We sell it, and then the job is to carry on and make that contract turn into reality. And when we have a failed Wakamoko and then we get back we have a challenge with this one getting it across the line, it just reiterates that feeling from central government that we're a non-investable kind of community, and that worries me. It shouldn't. I don't mean that as a veiled threat in any way whatsoever. Please don't take it as that. It's just a reality that is what it's just part of the equation.
And I think, Shane, and I think we all appreciate that, and that's the struggle that we've had sitting around this table with our neighbours suggesting they're going to be part of this process, or even the initial Waingawa water storage project, and then pulling out from underneath us, and we had around this table, we then had to take up that slack, if I can put it that way, which was a considerable amount of money. So we see that difficulty as well, but we're very appreciative of the opportunity of that funding in front of us. That's exactly why we're having these conversations now with the new council.
Can I add to that? So Shane has supported water in Waingawa previously through the process water project that we delivered, and you mentioned, we did anticipate our neighbouring councils to participate, and they pulled out at the last minute. But this council contributed $760 odd thousand towards their project, and Shane and Kanoa contributed 1.75 million towards that project as a grant. And that's a significant investment in this area that's already provided reticulated processed water throughout parts of the Waingawa area. And I think, that is, as Shane said, if we are looking for benefits, if we are looking for economic development in our area, we have already invested in Waingawa. We would get more bang for buck by continuing our investment in this area, because we've already got support in there. We've got a reticulated network around Waingawa. We've got a water race that runs through here. We've got the possibility of leveraging this. And I know Johannes's wife is doing some work on the water race at the moment. And I seem to recall him saying to me the other day that the idea of this project isn't new.
Yeah, so it's quite ironic or fitting. I don't know, you choose. But the 15th of December, 1890, Mr. Coleman Phillips had a public meeting where they were discussing an irrigation scheme for Carterton. So, and in 1967, there was actually a concept design done for water storage in the Waingawa, and they estimated from the engineering report there that it would have allowed for 60,000 residents in Waingawa, and about 80,000 hectares or acres of irrigation in that area. So yeah, there's a lot of possibility and a lot of economic growth that could be had in that area, and that has been discussed for more than a century. It's 135 years now. So
it's been going on a while, and I'm not saying that it's your job to complete. Don't worry about it. Just kick that can down the road. What is important is this is a process to share information, to get feedback, for us as management to understand what it is that you would require to help you make decisions. What I hear is we've done some great work on the cost side. We've done some great work on acquiring suitable land. The business case stacks up. We now need to do some more work around the revenue side of things to mitigate that risk, and also how we might share the burden. We don't want the smallest council in the Wairarapa taking on the largest risk. And so you'd like to see what we can do in terms of talking to our neighbours. And I'm going to turn to my mayor and deputy mayor and ask for help in talking to our neighbours about where they may wish to play on that. And I will talk to Joel and Rangatani about whether or not they wish to participate.
Jeff, there is a I know that for there's a real interest from central government to try and establish an entity of sort to look after sort of Lower Hawke's Bay and this area as well. But they've talked about maybe combining that a little bit around water, around picking up and being an entity that holds the water storage. That's similar to the Tītai Tokoro Water Trust, and if you may not be familiar with them, but it's a water trust that got set up. Murray McCully and David Samuels, who have basically now completed 4 major dams in the far north region, and a big pipeline that's joining 2 of those dams together as well. Now, none of those have had customers online down the track that they were going to sign up. They were irrigating to otherwise underutilised Māori land. But it's got good soil that they could do high value haught from it, but the money is not going to start flowing for that for a long time. And I think understanding that land use change and investment isn't the same as setting up a business and deciding I know the market's really big and we're going to drive it. It's different than that. This is a long-term decision about a shift in how we use our land and how we develop growth. And I just wanted to put that picture there because the Tītai Tokoro Water Trust has kind of already walked this path for the last decade or 6 years.
I said to that though that had Waka Walkout gone ahead, we probably wouldn't be discussing this particular project because it'd be a huge amount of storage, similar in size to Tītai Tokoro and Ruataniwha and all those sorts of things. And it wasn't the Wairarapa that pulled them out, it was Greater Wellington that pulled the rug out. Now, we've got some things coming up that might change things, and I think we need to factor this into account. We've got the possibility now that we could have a Wairarapa council that's a unitary council, and that could change the rules a lot. We've got the RMA changing as well. And so better opportunities could be coming our way. And I see what we've been doing here is a result of us being stopped from doing good water storage in the Wairarapa. And this is sort of like an answer to that. Now, it may well be that what goes around comes around, and we get an opportunity to look at larger storage and perhaps join up with Hawke's Bay in terms of doing something like that. And I think that
this is much smaller. It's a resilience play for the park, and on one big front, and then a little bit. And I just wanted to acknowledge the other councillor. I'm sorry, I don't really know your name because I haven't seen you. I just want to acknowledge your thoughts too, because it is, we've just, central government have just thrown some really big, important implications on you as a council, and that is absolutely fair. I think your comments are completely fair given the situation that you're in now.
Joel, did I see you were going to make comment before? Or?
Yeah, I just want to start by I'll start by saying that I'm not claiming mana whenua over this area. Just want to make that clear. But what I will say is that water storage and finding ways to create that water storage. When you need the water, and you don't have water storage, then you're in dire straits. So that might be we could be there in 20 years. I do take on board the other the councillors' comments around. We've got the cart, we just need the horse to drive it, and that being industry or whatever else. So I just wanted to say that I want to reassure council that I don't oppose this at all. I know that some groups can be quite, I guess, take a sort of different approach when it comes to water storage, but I think this is a really good project and what it's trying to achieve. I do hope that we're able to find a way. Or Jeff and Johannes are able to find a way to for us, to get it over the table, across the table. I guess but my next thing, Jeff, and it's probably outside of this and walks alongside it, is around what that industrial zone looks like. And what discharges and air, land and water that might look like for the industrial zone, that we hope we're able to attract industry to come and fill that up. But yeah, I just wanted to make that comment so to reassure council that I definitely don't oppose this at all, and hope that we can find a solution to get this through.
Got a job. Thank you for that.
Have you got any money?
Yeah.
18 million?
Sorry, I had to ask,
Thursday.
Joel.
Ask me Thursday.
Thanks, Shane. I really appreciate you coming to the table and your input. I certainly concur with what Jane mentioned, and Jeff and I have had a conversation around pushing pause just until we know a little bit more of the final the details of what's coming out from central government, and because I think that will help lead us and potentially help our conversations with our neighbours too, to help them realise how important this project is. So I think that's going to form part of our discussion too with this. But I'd certainly like to see more work done in the space of speaking with our neighbours and speaking with our PSG partners and just seeing whether they are interested in supporting us moving forward with this project as soon as possible. But just one more question for you, Johannes, because we are over time. Just around next steps, is there other things that you can do before we, let's say, get a digger in the ground and dig, apart from the test holes, obviously, and start digging the hole? Are there other things that you can do that will of importance before that point, or are we at a bit of a standstill with what you can do?
I would say we're probably at a standstill. So the next step is to procure the detailed design team and the construction team. But I would recommend not doing that until we are confident that we want to proceed with the project. So I would say I think a pause is then probably good, that we can do the work to satisfy council in terms of is there opportunity to partner? Yep.
So a question for that then, pausing, going and getting the full and final design, wouldn't that come under the preliminary costings that will not fall onto us anyway? It seems crazy to pause something that won't be.
The question is, so what size, what dam are we building? Is it 1 million cubic metres, or are we going to the budget of 2 million cubic metres? And if so, it changes where we put it, how we build it, how contractors cost it. We need a decision before we go to market with those things.
Yeah.
I have a question with regards to the rates impact. 26.5% increase over the next 3 years is what's estimated, with excluding waters. So assuming that our waters get handed over, that was the figure in the document across the next 3 years.
Oh, you added them up?
Yeah,
Oh, they weren't cumulative.
they weren't.
No, they're not cumulative.
Okay.
I apologise. They're not cumulative.
That rates increase will sit us outside of our 4% threshold. Will we have to go to government for sorry, this is important, we need, okay, we will.
Yeah, two possibilities. The cynic might say, if 2 to 4% is coming in 2029, get in now. Which might be a bad outcome for our community.
Not be that outcome.
I think it might be a bad outcome for councils. It didn't work well for regional. I think you're right. We would have to go to government and seek an exemption. But I think what's really important in this case is I would struggle to see how this could be classified as a vanity project along lines of, twinkly toilets or other things. I think this is very clearly focused on economic development and the support of Kanoa would add weight to the case.
Mhm.
Thank you. All right, Tony.
So from here, it sounds like we've got some work to do. Both management and governance have got some work to do in terms of talking to our neighbours and our partners. We've got some work to do in terms of seeing what we can refine around revenue and building that side of the business case. Whether we get to the next meeting, which will be in February, I will keep the mayor and the deputy mayor informed as to how we go with that process.
It'll be hard over the Christmas break, no?
It is going to be difficult, but look, the plan was to bring something up to February. Until that plan changes, we'll work towards that, and when it changes, we'll let you know.
Can I
If it changes.
Councillor Della a question? He knows every farmer in the Wairarapa. What's your feeling, Brian, about being able to get farmers to give us at least an individual indication that if there is water that they will buy it?
Yes, thanks, Steve. The farmers out on the East Territory and down to Park Vale struggle to find groundwater. So that area out there, there's a couple of good bores down on Tulloch Block and Territory Training Farm, but they get shut down early when the water level in Waingawa goes down. So when they really need the water in January, February, they can't irrigate because when the Waingawa gets
when they need it.
So I think that there is definitely demand out there, and the farmers that I've talked to already are looking forward to it. Further down in the Park Vale, they do get shut down too. So because a lot of theirs is from water-raised water, or once again underground aquifers that do vary with the water flow. So they get shut down early. So if they can get another month out of their irrigation, it's got to be good. Another month or 6 weeks.
Is there any inappropriate use of water-raised water? You wouldn't know, would you? Like people irrigating when they shouldn't be?
There's only 4 or 6 consents for irrigation out of the water-raised network. The rest is only meant to be for stock water and host tap.
They could be using it for their gardens or anything, don't they?
So I guarantee there is inappropriate use, but it's very hard to.
If I can maybe just add to that, that's part of the overseer's role is when he sees inappropriate use, he would address that, and other farmers also they also enforced they would knock on their neighbour, and it has been reported in the past if somebody's dropped a pump in there that shouldn't, and then the overseer would deal to it. So it does happen, but it is managed.
Yeah, okay. But good to hear that they're probably very strong support. I mean, that's what
definitely that
just needs to be,
I mean, it's changed a lot of areas in New Zealand, with water available.
Oh, no doubt.
And it would definitely make a difference to the Territory Plains.
Thanks, Brian.
And then that too, I've heard of a lot of farmers invest a lot of money in the underground irrigation. And then regional council, when they want the water, they shut them down. And they've all this money invested in irrigation, and they got to stop. That's the way they should be able to keep going.
It may well be actually that agricultural is our gem, and industrial is our secondary.
Oh, I totally agree. Especially if you get into high value crops like small seeds, more green
Stone fruit,
pastoral
berries,
pastoral. Good quality.
So there could be land use change around Tahi.
Stone fruits, we could get back to lots of orchards.
That sounds great.
Got more vineyards.
That's all we need to quantify. If that's going to happen, then we've now got some, we've got commitment, prepared to buy the water. Then
the vineyards out at Gladstone and down at East Territory, they are restricted with their water flows. I'm sure that if they could pour more water on, they get better returns.
But the problem is that it's going to be our townies that are funding it, and they're not going to be getting the benefit from it. It's the thing that I can't avoid.
They will get benefit. There's just going to be
Not directly.
more jobs, more opportunities, more people living here. the money, every bit of agricultural money that's earned by the farmers, they reckon it's spent 7 times over to town. So
Kind of like how current water though is, right? The residential carry the 90% and then the 10% split, flip it.
If I may comment on that, and I might stand to be corrected, but if you think of what the potential is in land value uplift and what that would do to the percentage shift in where the burden of council rates are rated, it could have a significant impact on urban ratepayers, positive impact, when they're not the most expensive land anymore. So if you see land that goes from $50,000 a hectare to $300,000 a hectare, that's what happens with horticultural land. And we still think of our burden pie and how that's distributed across our council, having a significant uplift in property value will have a massive impact on the urban ratepayers.
But it might take 30 years. Is the only thing. I can see the argument, but it's just how many families are going to move out of town because they can't afford to live in Carterton while we're waiting for that value to increase out there.
That is exactly you hit the nail on the head. That's the problem we face. We've got a cost today for a future benefit, and we are trading those two off. Potentially, that future benefit might offset rates, and it might keep a lid on rates, but that's in the future.
Yeah.
But what's the cost of building this in 30 years? We've already seen the infrastructure.
What was the cost 135 years ago?
Can we go back to the time machine? Funny you should ask that. In 1967, the estimate was $750,000. I mean, if you take that would have been paid off by now. And then the benefit would have been just benefit. I think the opportunity here was because we've got quite a finite volume of water that needs to be allocated. It's not impossible to think that could be allocated before we actually finish the dam, meaning that there's no burden on the ratepayers.
What do you think?
And then we build another one further down the waterways.
Not bad.
And then you think of the $100 million economic benefit that's realised through this. It could be quite significant to Carterton.
I think actually we're sort of seeing here too, that if we did go for this, we'd have to go for the big one because agriculture would be, it would sink the quantity quite quickly, wouldn't it? You'd only have it on for a couple of weeks and the dam's empty.
Less than an hour and you've changed.
I know. Going here.
So that's that extra 40% cost potentially of having to move a dam wall out another, let's say, 50 metres to give a bit more storage.
It would be cheaper to build a brand new one.
Yeah, would you just do 2 holes then? Rather than extend one, you just have a second hole, another bit of land?
It would make a very simple thing very complicated.
Yeah.
To do something like that.
Absolutely.
okay.
Can I ask a final question, Johannes? The water races that are in that area, from my knowledge, are quite shallow and narrow. Will we get enough water through those races to fill up the reservoir during the winter months?
Good question.
That is a fantastic question. We looked at the lake. There's about 400 meters of race that would have to be, or we would want to improve or widen a little bit. But looking at the Tim Smith's calculations, it would be relatively easy to fill the dam with the flows that we currently have in the waterways.
The bigger size?
Yeah.
Is it just one tributary feeding into it?
Yes. There's possible. So the way that the land's lying is there's one that naturally will just cross the boundary. So that's the obvious one. There's another one to the southwest that we could feed in.
You'd have to get it upwind of it though, eh? But gravity feed it in.
But the problem with that is that takes another intake into the dam or take out of the waterways in terms of infrastructure required.
Yeah.
And the
Downstream waterways users as well.
I think the opportunity or the flow available, even though we don't have a massive flow into it, it's sufficient to fill the dam. And we're not even talking about the winter
Rainfall.
the winter rainfall on a footprint of 20 hectares. Like that's quite significant, just rainfall. But then also we know how much overland flow we get during the winter, and the water races becomes the natural flow path for that. So there's a lot of water that's over and above what we're taking from the Waingawa that will end up in the reservoir or the storage facility.
Thanks, Johannes. All right.
Thank you.
I
hope that's been helpful.
That's been very helpful. Yeah, very good. I really appreciate the work that you've done, Johannes, to get us to this point. Thank you for that and what was presented. Thanks, Jeff. It certainly provided some good conversation.
Something to think about over Christmas.
Yeah, it's another thing on that list. Kia ora, Joel, for joining us. Thank you. Shane, Jeff, hope you've been enthralled. We'll close with our karakia whakamutanga. Please. Kia whakaerea te tāpū. Kia waitia. Kia te ki whakasara. Kia te ki whakasara. Good everybody.
Well done. Thank you. Kia ora, Joel.